everyone, welcome back for this new episode of Coding Design System. So today is a specific day because our special day, let's say that. Because today we won't have George with us because George is on vacation. So hello, George, if you are looking at us. And I'm really happy and really excited to be here today because we had to postpone this episode in the week. So I'm happy to be able to do it regardless of the situation. And I'm really happy because today we are with Matthew from the Astro Core team. So hello, Matthew. How are you?
Hey, how's it going? I'm really happy
Yeah,
to be here.
yeah. Finally, we're able to do it. So yeah, that's really
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
So
it'll be great.
yeah, it will be cool to have you today. I really want to discuss about Astro and design systems. So let's start by the beginning. You are a member of the core team of Astro. You are working at the project for how long time? A year, a few months? I can't recall.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about that when I was thinking about how to talk about this. I think we started it March of last year,
Hmm.
somewhere around March of last year. So yeah, it's been right at a month, or not a month, a year.
Yeah. It's, time flies, you know. So okay, so for those of our viewers that may not know the Astro project and what it is, could you just present it? This is a new tool in the term of static site generators. So it totally leads to a new era of and totally revamp the way we are thinking the static site generation. So could you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, happy to. So Astro is a static site generator, although I will say that we are now exploring server rendering as well. So we have kind of ambitions to go beyond static site generation, but that is who we are kind of as our core. But what makes Astro different from a lot of other tools that people are perhaps familiar using is that we've kind of bridged using component-based systems, whether they be React components or Svelte components, etc., with using the more traditional, purely static rendering solutions such as Hugo, Levity, etc. We allow you to use components. We allow you to use the framework of your choice. So you can use React or Vue or Svelte, etc., or any framework, and you can use that inside of Astro, and everything gets rendered. And there's not a bunch of JavaScript that gets added to the page. We don't do any automatic JavaScript adding, which is typically what you get with most uh, backend frameworks in the space. Instead, what we do is we use a technique called partial hydration and island architecture. So these are very big words, but essentially all this means is you tell Astro specifically, here's a block of code here's a component, I should say, that needs to run in the browser, and Astro will kind of wire that all up to do it in the most efficient way possible. So not only do you say, I need this to run in the client, you say how it should run in the client. So you say, this component needs to run when it becomes visible. Maybe you have a component that you have the user doesn't see until they scroll the page. Well, we make it so that component can load lazily. You might say, I want this to load when the CPU is idle. Again, this is a component that is like non-critical. So let's not like load it right away. So I guess kind of in general, what we're trying to do is give users a way to use the tools they're already familiar with, their component-based systems, and use those in a way that kind of provides a happy path towards a good performing website, kind of good default. Yeah, that's really what Astro is about.
Okay, that's a totally new paradigm when you are trying to generate your pages and your views, your front end finally, because the way that we're thinking of partial hydration is something, I guess, probably not that new, but this is Astro is totally bringing a new way to handle it. And how I don't know how difficult do you think it is to change your mental model and to finally being able to to, to grab this concept of partial hydration and how you could put it in place when you are developing with Astro and designing with Astro. Because the way that you are able to use external components coming from external libraries like you said, React, Vue, Svelte, or whatever. Yeah, is there a new way to think of the design of your pages and the way you are architecturing your pages?
Yeah, there is a little bit, but I would say that in general that there's not a whole lot because the type of pages that we're really targeting are things that you might design with a traditional backend framework in the past. So these are things where you're mostly creating HTML on the server and send it to the client. And I think this is how people use components in general, anyways. And there's only small bits of things in these types of use cases where you actually need to be interactive. Um, it's not like Backlight.dev, which is actually a very interactive thing, right? This is more like you have these small bits of interactivity. Um, so it really makes you. But what's nice about it is it really makes you think about like, is this something that needs to run in the client? Because what people are used to is the default being everything does. Does make you need to think about that, and I guess in that regard, it is different. Um, but I think starting with a baseline of like you're just rendering HTML, you can get very far with that. And I think what Astro does and what the Astro community really rallies around is this idea of like where do you actually need this little bit of interactivity? There are some cases where it is a little bit difficult now. In this new island architecture where if you do have two components that are separated on the page and you want to interact with them, well, that's now you need to go a step farther to do that, but it is still very possible. So yeah, just it's more of thinking the way that you already were when you're building these types of websites. Like I'm generating HTML, um, but when you do need that interactivity, whether you have like a dark mode on and off switch, something very small like that, we try to make it very easy to do that.
Okay, yeah, that's really awesome because I'm coming from the in the past, really wide in the past, really far in the past. I started as a backend developer, as many of us, working with PHP and so on. And yeah, having this same kind of flexibility to be able to build pages without having to worry about mixing different kind of languages, working both with PHP and JavaScript, and taking care of front-end frameworks as well as developing for the backend and so on. This is way much simpler right now with tool like Astro. So yeah, it's a big change for us. And
I think
yeah, yeah.
Well, I think what kind of I don't know, this is just my interpretation of like kind of the last 10 years is as soon as front end frameworks really took off, they made it so easy to build your app as a small bit of like little components, right? And that model of making my website as kind of Lego blocks building on top of each other is very powerful. And I think that's part of the reason why it worked its way into the back end. Whereas more old school backend frameworks. There are some exceptions with Java, but a lot of those are not component based at all, or if components are kind of a side thing you might do here and there. But with what Frameworks did is it makes it so easy to build these that people want to start using on the back end. And I think that's how these frameworks that are single page app kind of as that architecture using that even on more traditional websites became popular just because of components. And we're really focused on the component model is great, and Astro is a component model. You can use .astro files, and we can talk about those in a minute. But .astro files are components themselves. They're just simple components. They never run on the client at all. They're all just about HTML. Um, so yeah, I guess that's my brief history of recent web development and how I kind of see it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really neat approach. I really really like it. I also really like the fact that when you're starting to introduce the Astro component, you finally choose a syntax that is really close to the JSX syntax, which is probably I don't know, in my opinion, the best way to talk to a lot of developers, because there is a lot of developers that are handling the front end development with React, so with the same fundamentals, and the introduction of JSX were finally some kind of, I don't know, common standard, let's say that, even if it's not standard, but something like other frameworks tend to support at some point. You could use JSX with other framework rather than React. So yeah, is it particular choice for you to choose to stay close to the syntax when developing the Astro components?
Oh yeah, tell you the JSX syntax, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely the case. I think my memory of it was when we started building Astro. We had this idea that we wanted to implement the island architecture, and that meant that we wanted to give you, ways to use components within a HTML-ish syntax. So we want to make this as familiar to people as possible. In my memory, in the early days, we weren't even going to have like JSX expressions at all. We were just going to be like, hey, it's just HTML plus components, and that's all you get. That has its limits, and then eventually, we needed expressions. So yeah, it was totally like, well, we should just basically support. It should be almost exactly like JSX. Um, because that's just for the familiarity more than anything else. But we also, and I think our community has really, really embraced this, is that we want to stay close to HTML. We don't want to make you have to learn all these special rules. So what makes Astro different is it is a little bit like JSX. Obviously, it's not in a JS file. You don't have to export a function or anything like that to use Astro. Um, but when you do use it, like have you don't have to close all your tags. You can put CSS inside of a style tag. That's something you can't do in JSX. You can use HTML comments, which you can't do in JSX. There's a handful of things of differences. But yeah, when we was kind of faced with that, like what are the bounds of this thing? Is like, well, we're actually mostly HTML, and then you use JSX inside expressions when you need to inject something. Uh, but otherwise, we really want to be really close to HTML. HTML with, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's a good approach. But I really do like it. It's totally
Yeah.
awesome, and really, I don't know, really flexible. When you're trying to just to
Yeah, a
prototype
lot of
things really really quickly.
our thinking in the early days was, we had this kind of conflict in our mind. It was like we knew that we needed to build our own syntax to support this partial hydration,
Hmm.
but we also knew that it was going to be a hurdle to get people to adopt a new templating language, because there's so many out there. Everybody has their own preferences. It's kind of asking a lot to do it. So in the early days, we were really concentrating on like, hey, let's just get you to your favorite component framework as quickly as possible. Let's make our own Astro files, like not the center of the universe. I mean, they kind of are the center of the universe, but they're not where you spend most of your time. It's like you're going to spend most of your time writing a view component or whatever you prefer, um, and then you just kind of have to use Astro to kind of like glue everything together.
Hmm.
But I think what was a little bit surprising is people did like the Astro syntax, and as the framework has developed, that's become more of a focus over time, and making sure that that's correct. Because I think we've been lucky where we've gotten a lot of adoption from people who are maybe more design focused or more content focused, and not so focused on JavaScript, not so engineering focused.
Mm.
And those people really appreciate Astro being close to HTML, and try to, keeping that simplicity where you can kind of keep your mind in, kind of the layout of your page, and not so much in like, oh yeah, I got to do this kind of thing because this is actually JavaScript. And so we've, been trying to maintain that, kind of over the course of uh, just of building Astro.
Yeah, that's a good idea. From my perspective, when I started to work with the front end frameworks, there was still at this point big battle between React and Vue, and I was more coming from the design side, and I was really more attracted with the Vue syntax because it was really more declarative when React
Right.
was more a really engineered way to do so, and I always prefer this way to just you you're supposed to have a single source of truth, and this source is finally your markup that is just explaining what you are intending to do, and yeah, being just close to this syntax and stay with it is yeah, it's really usable, really pleasant to use every day.
Yeah, and we have a big advantage that other frameworks do not, in that we're only server focused. So there's a lot of considerations that you have to think about when designing, something like Vue or Svelte, because those things are, their primary use cases is in the browser. So if you want, if because they have to run in both, they kind of have to have these considerations that we can kind of ignore. We can
Mm.
just kind of say, oh, well, we're only going to render this HTML once, so all these things we didn't really have to worry about. But that aids us in having kind of I hope, a simpler design, less advanced features because of that. One interesting thing, kind of in the early development of Astro, for people who don't know, the .astro syntax has kind of as a top section, which um, we call the component section, although everyone just calls it the front matter section, so we should probably just call it that. But if you're familiar with front matter starts with three dashes, and then usually you'll have like some YAML or some other language like that, and then you'll have another three dashes, and then you have your template. Like if you use Levity, you might be familiar with this. Uh, but we and for Astro, like inside of that front matter section, you put JavaScript or TypeScript.
Mm.
That's kind of where your code lives. But when we were kind of first starting in Astro, we this idea didn't exist. Like we kind of came up with it accidentally, because we were looking at what other frameworks did. Is like, where do you run the code on the server? And Svelte has a very specific way where they do that. And first, we kind of started that with that ourselves, but kind of the nature of Astro is where you're kind of designing the entire page. You're really focused on the entire page. It's not as just, whereas other frameworks are very like just a component focus. We kind of have this: you're designing a page, you're using components, but you're really designing the page. So it felt very natural for you to write the HTML tag and write the head tag and do all that stuff. And so we were like, well, where are we going to put the script? It was like, because in other frameworks, you put in a script tag. But it's like we have script tag. We want to have script tags be actual script tags that go into the browser.
Mm.
Anyways, that's a long-winded way of saying that it's when you design these things, you kind of fall into these happy accidents. And I think our front matter section is one of those where people really like that they write their code above the template, and then you have the template. They're very separated things. Yeah, it's just something that happened on accident.
No, we've got an interesting question. Was Astro the first file to use TypeScript as a front matter?
Uh, for for front matter, I believe so. I mean, as far as I'm aware, I don't think anyone was putting like code inside of front matter before Astro. Usually, you saw that used, like I said, for YAML,
Mm.
or Tom or something like that, um, some type of configuration language. But as far as like having TypeScript support within the component file, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that Svelte and probably Vue have had that a lot longer than us. But when we were designing Astro, we knew for sure that it should just support TypeScript by default.
Mm.
I think some other frameworks you have to opt into TypeScript. I don't know if that's still true, but um, we knew that, like, yeah, we definitely, like, you know everybody uses TypeScript nowadays. Like, you should just support TypeScript by default.
Yeah, yeah. At least I guess that if you support TypeScript, you support JavaScript. So it's be the
Exactly.
best effort to just put your effort on TypeScript, and everything
You can
will
use
just
either
flow
one,
into
yeah.
that. Yeah. Let's talk a bit about design system and see what we should mix between design systems and Astro, and what we should do with them. So let me just So we will start with Backlight, which is our design system editor at DevRiot. My first idea was to figure out if we are able to build a kind of starter kit using Astro for a design system. So is it, I don't know, possible to start a design system made of Astro components? So
Yeah,
let's try it. I'm really don't know if we will be able to do so, but yeah, that's a nice
give it a
exercise.
try.
Yeah, that's fun. So let me get branch for this session. And
Yeah,
okay,
I should say up front, like I am much more of an engineer. So I'm vaguely familiar with design systems, but I probably have a much less sophisticated definition of a design system. So when I think of design systems, I think of like, oh, this is how you build your different components that you use throughout your page and make sure you have a consistent design and that sort of thing. Am I right?
yeah. It's interesting because we've got another stream with Thais, which is our lead designer at DevRiot, and we host it every Thursday, and we're trying to find a way to gather out different vision between developers' perspective and designers' perspective about what is a design system and how to work in it
Right.
and so on. And yesterday we had a nice conversation about. It started with a simple question: are we becoming to be too rigid with our definitions of design systems?
Mm,
And finally, it led us to um, what what is design in the design system and what is a system in a design system, because having just a collection of themable components is nice, but it's not the design system at all, because you need more than that to help people to collaborate around the same areas, same interface.
right.
So yeah, I guess I'm really not sure that we could have a great overall definition of what a design system is, but
Okay.
I guess that at least if you have access to different kind of variables that host your brand identity, and that those variables can be used and cascade inside your components libraries, and you have a documentation to have to yeah, to help you to use those different components, then yeah, you have a kind of a design system at all. So yeah, that's
Okay.
a good way to start, I guess. So
All right.
um so let's try a little bit. There is two areas I really want to cover in this coding session. The first one is trying to build a component with Astro and to import, let's say, some kind of design tokens in it. Um, and and the second one will be how we could use Astro to build the documentation of your design system, which is also, I guess, a nice challenge about it.
All right.
Yeah, here we go. So um, about styling, let's talk a bit about styling. What is the best way for you to style any kind of Astro components? If I want to I don't know, yeah, to share different kind of styles between different components, what's the best way to do so? CSS custom properties or something else?
Oh, to share design between components.
Yeah.
Um, that is a great question. Well, yeah, I guess you could use CSS variables would be one way. You could, of course, create, global class names would be another way.
Hmm.
Um, because Astro is, so much about the component model, just creating more generic components is another way where you have a generic component that does the styling. Um, yeah, we definitely support like LN and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I'm not sure what the best way to do that. Yeah, so for people that don't know, Astro components are scoped by default. That means that you can put a style tag inside of an Astro component, and those styles will have a scoped class name attached to them, and so that basically they won't, interfere with other styles on your page.
Hmm. Okay, so let's try to take care of that. Let me create a new token to host the colors of our design system. Let's say that. So
Okay.
in my source folder, I will have a color dot, let's say CSS at the moment.
hmm
And let's define a few tokens using, I don't know, let's say a colors red. Or color, let's say color primary. Okay, so it will be a best way to handle it. And maybe we'll do the basic, like a color black, which won't be a real black because real black is too dark, and a color is white, which is the light one. Okay, so I've got CSS, and the CSS I've got my different tokens. Let's say that. And now I want to use them in my component. So I will create a component. Let's say a button, because always a button in your design system. Always have a button. So we build an Astro component, an Astro file.
hmm
So let's say button.astro. And so what
You
now?
can also use Sass in Astro, so that's another way to do it.
That's a good point. Maybe we could try that. Let's say that. So I've got my button. So
I like CSS variables too.
yeah. So what's the best way? Let's try with let's stick to CSS at the moment, but maybe we will fall
Yeah, let's
back
do
to
that.
something else after that. Okay. So we've got a button.
Yeah.
I guess we
So you,
should. Yeah.
so what you would do is outside, like probably above this button tag, add a style tag.
Yeah.
Um, so we want to, well, we want to use these within the component, right? Yeah, add import to that colors. Can you
Let's
do that?
say import to the colors. So it's in ECSC colors.css. So it will be
Okay.
this file. Okay.
So that should make that available. Then inside of that style tag, you can actually style the button using those.
Okay. So despite the fact that the style is copied to the component, I guess I will be able to access it.
Yes, you could
Okay.
also mark that style to be global, and it will be those will be global styles as well if you wanted to do that, but
Yeah.
might not want to.
Okay. Let's try like this at the moment. So let's say we will have a background. Yeah. Which use my colors primary. And gosh. And let's say the color will be the white one. Dash colors, white. Okay, we've got a nice comment on the stream too that is saying the Backlight.dev docs also mention the JSON format. And I think Astro can import those custom properties. Really? We could import JSON as a custom properties in the
Oh
components?
yeah. You can do that as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, how to do that? Let's try it.
Okay. So you can create a JSON file for your tokens.
Yeah, let's do that. Like a colors.json. No, it won't work. It won't work that way. So JSON.
Not
Okay.
that JSON. Yeah.
Yep. And so let's primary, yeah, missing quotes, which is the red one. I've got a black, which is my we won't have enough time to cover it, but a good thing to know with Backlight is that there is a built-in support for style dictionary, so you could declare your different tokens in JSON format and export them in JavaScript or in JSON or in custom CSS properties and so on. So it would be a good use case too, but we definitely won't have enough time. So, okay, I've got my JSON file. So right now,
Yeah. So I assume this would work. I never really imported JSON. I guess you can do this. So above this, do we want to get rid of the style tag or get rid of that import for now?
yeah, it's gonna read out of this, something like that, you know.
Actually, now I'm unsure if JSON's the right way to do it.
You tell me.
Let's stick with CSS for right now, because now I'm having second
Okay,
thought.
let's stick on CSS at the moment, and we'll see for the JSON after that. Okay.
Yeah, you can do it, but
Yeah.
it is interesting.
Um.
Actually, no. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's have fun.
Tell me.
All right. So above the style tag, you can add a front matter. So that's the 3 dashes. Yeah, and
Yep.
you add a second one, which closes it. Now import your JSON there.
Okay, so let's say which is an import in the ESM format, I guess. Import colors from home colors ssc colors.json. Okay, all right.
Right. Okay. So now there's this feature in Astro called define vars, and what it does is allows you to add variables to your CSS. And so what I think you should be able to do is on that style tag, add an attribute, define colon vars, VARS,
Define vars, yeah.
and then equals, and not a string, do an expression, so the curlies,
And the curlies, all
and
right.
then pass colors there.
Okay.
So what that is supposed to do, and we're going to find out if it does, is it takes an object, which should be that JSON file, and it turns those into CSS variables.
Okay. Is it adding some kind of prefix on it?
Yeah, it's making, yeah, it's adding the 2 slashes
Okay,
for you. So well, yeah.
Okay, so if my keys are primary black white, I am supposed to have my dash dash colors dash primary and so on.
Yeah, I think your keys were black and white. Then I think it would be just dash dash black and dash dash white.
Okay, so let's try something like that at the moment, and we'll see what's after that. I need to add a slot, I guess, in my inside my button to be able to display my child in it.
Yep.
Okay, so so now we have to display it at some point. So I'm not sure we've got access to support Astro files in stories in a sense of a storybook format. I'm not sure about that. So so let's create a doc page in the Astro format too. So we will be able to display it. So if I create an index.astro file and let's say here's a button as a h1 with 3 keys. Yeah, of course. Okay, so we've got an Astro file, and the Astro file is rendered as a documentation page. So that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I could import my button in this one.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be an import button from my button file, which is here in my SSC folder, button.astro, and I'm pretty sure that I put capital first, so it's probably something like this. Yeah. And now
Okay.
I should be able to put button here.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Astro. Is it working? it works, and we've got
Oh
access
my
to the
gosh.
tokens. Boom! Awesome.
I was really worried there because I spent a lot of time developing Astro, but less time like building Astro pages. So it's like, how do you do this? Yeah.
No, that's really nice. That's really nice. Okay, so it
Yeah.
means,
Yeah.
yeah, you can definitely host your tokens in JSON files, which is really nice. And you
Yeah.
can import them, access them directly in CSS custom properties, thanks to the define vars attribute, which is really awesome.
Yeah. So you could see like, so the other thing that define vars gives you is you have the ability uh, to use logic to determine how things, are going to be rendered. So you could see like in your front matter section that you might have like, I don't know, some type of condition where, but let's say for example, we added a primary prop to the button. Like the button could take a primary prop or something like that, right? And then inside the front matter of the button, you would check if that prop is used, and if it is used, then you're going to, change inside your divine vars. You're going to define a primary or something. I don't, or maybe not. Maybe that's not it. But you know what I mean? Where you can kind of dynamically change the way colors look based on props that come in or some other condition.
Mhm. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about, because yeah, you've got access to the flexibility of just having the custom
Yeah,
properties and just switch them depending on the context by just using few
yeah.
classes and something like this,
Like
which
you
is
could change that define vars instead of passing colors directly. You could pass an object. So you could have the object as like, I don't know, color or something like that.
hmm,
And then that way you could like kind of implement light mode and dark mode kind of in a dynamic fashion, if that makes sense. Just one possible use
yeah. Okay. You know what? Maybe we could try something like this.
case. Okay.
Yeah, should be nice. Okay, so what will be my idea with this one? Maybe I guess we should define just for the sake of the demo, adding global style. So if I recall
Yep.
correctly, it's a style global like
That's right.
this.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm allowed to do so. So if I do a body, um, I could do a background. Okay, let me import define vars colors in it. No.
Let's do it.
Okay, and okay. You think I can prefix the values coming from the object? Is there something like if the in the JSON file, if the elements are nested, would it generate custom properties like dash dash, I don't know, prefix dash the key value?
Oh, that's fun. I don't know if it's that sophisticated. You could give it a try.
Okay, let's try
That
it.
would be cool. Maybe that's a feature we should add. I don't know if I'd ever thought about using this particular feature for design systems specifically because that makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
um, I like that, but yeah, I don't know if we thought about that when we were designing define bars.
Okay, if I do something like this, do I have access to something like this one? No.
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 Yeah. Now, I
Okay.
mean, you could do it in the JavaScript yourself. You could like flatten that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not built in just yet, at least.
Okay. But yeah, because of the the use of the prefixes when you are trying to define tokens, it's really useful because you will have colors and fonts and spaces and blah 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 blah.
Do you
So
all like the JSON format for design tokens?
yeah, sure. Actually, the style dictionary format is something really interesting because it will be a nice demo too. So um, so this is a playground for style dictionary, and you define your different tokens this way. So you've got access to different values, and everything is nested. You know, you've got the cards and the borders and the radius and the mobile,
Yeah.
and finally the value and so on. And I guess the colors token is probably easier to read. Yeah, something like colors, base, gray, light value, medium value, dark value, and so on. And finally, the generated files are something that looks like, just the prefix, and everything is concatenated like SD as a prefix, color, base, gray, light, and the value, color, base, gray, medium, and the value, and so on. So yeah, by being able to define the token in the JSON format this way, like we could do in style dictionary, we would be able to directly use them in the Astro files using this kind of concatenation.
Yeah,
Would be fun.
I like that idea. I wonder. I mean, it seems like it'd be pretty simple just to write a function that kind of flattens those for you.
Yeah,
So yeah, maybe it's something. Maybe it's something we'll write.
yeah, it's probably not that complex. I guess so.
Yeah.
I'm the client. I'm just saying, okay, I want that. So yeah, let's define something like colors white as a background for the body, and for the colors, no color. Color is black. Okay, and let's say that the body with a dark class will invert those values, black and white, like a Rolling Stone. Okay. And now what? If I click on my button, I want to add a class or remove the class. So toggle the class, dark class on the body. So let's add it. Oh, could I add some kind of JavaScript action, on-click action on this button?
Oh, okay. Now this is interesting. Remember, Astro does not run in the client at all.
Yeah.
So the answer is you can't really. There are some interesting projects. I wonder. I don't know if we have time, but there is one particular project that I wanted to highlight called XElement.
Okay. Yeah.
If it's something, I don't know if we can do this quickly. I'm gonna send you a link.
Yeah.
You can get on npm. Now, what it does is it does enable you to do stuff like this.
So let's try something like
The
this.
other option would be is if you built the component as a framework component, a view component, whatever, then you can make that run in the client. But remember that um, Astro components do not run in the client, so you kind of have to find a way to add an extra JavaScript.
Okay, let's try with the Astro XElement. It seems to be fun. So
All right,
let's say
yeah,
Astro XElement. My
yeah.
okay. Let's take the last one.
The Astro
Okay.
community is going to love this.
Okay, nice. So I installed it as a dependency. So right now I get
Yes.
to import it, I
So
guess.
import it
Okay,
into the
so
front
we
matter.
import
XElement.
XElement
Yeah.
from Astro XElement. Okay, nice.
Okay. I've
Building the
never used this, so
dependencies.
this is all new for me.
Cool.
So where you have your button,
Yeah.
use the X element instead.
Okay, so it's
Yeah, use it
XElement.
there, and then
Okay.
you say at is equals button
So,
as an attribute. Add at is equals button. That tells it to render as a button.
okay, cool.
Um, and then to run JavaScript in the client, there's an at do,
Okay.
and then an expression, do the curlies.
Okay.
And if I
So
understand, I'm looking at the docs. This is going to receive the element.
okay. So let's
Um,
see.
I'll make sure I'm telling you this right. No, I'm sorry, not at do, at click.
At click.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess it takes a function at all. That's something like my elements.
Yeah.
Okay.
Checking it. Yeah. XElement, and then
Okay.
you can do whatever you need to do there. So
Okay. Cool.
what are we trying to do? We want to toggle it.
Toggle the class on the
Okay.
body. So it will
So
be a
do
document body class list.
yep. Toggle. Yep.
We have a toggle in the class list? I can't recall.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, so will it work or not? Saving, loading dependency.
For some reason it doesn't work. There's also a way we can do it. Uh-oh. There are no
Okay,
renderers in
then
the
just
Astro
set in
config.
your Astro
Uh,
config MGS file. Do you
let's
mean to
I'm gonna see
know?
if the communities.
Okay,
I'm looking at our Discord. They might give us an answer here. Uh, that is unexpected.
okay, import XElement from Astro XElement.
Yeah, you're doing it correctly, I think. What version of Astro are you using? I'm just curious.
Which
Your
version of
package.
Astro it is? That's a good question.
You look in the package JSON.
Let me
Is that
check. The fact it's built in directly into the editor, so it won't appear in the
Oh, right.
dependencies.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure we're using Vite in the back for that. So is there a plugin, a Vite Astro plugin?
You know what? I think XElement might not work with the latest version of Astro yet. They're still working on that, so that might be the reason why. Um, we can do it another way, just with the script tag, actually.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So let's do that. So yeah, let's remove
Oh,
the XElement import
you
and
know
go back
what?
to being a button.
I'm just
Huh?
seeing something in the documentation of XElement. Maybe if we try something like, let me
Oh
just
yeah.
try something. If
Yep.
we're doing some const button,
Yes. Try that. Maybe that work better.
maybe I don't know. I don't know if it's a kind of bug on the backlog side, which is definitely possible, or or it's
Yeah, you just
depending
replace that
on
with
the
button.
version. Yeah, it's a really elegant to do it like this. So as it
Yeah, it's
loading
X
very
Elements.
fast.
It's a really cool because you can, as you can see, you can add just a little bit of JavaScript
Yeah.
without too much. Yeah, so we just released Astro 023 last
Here's
week.
one. Hmm.
So some dependencies haven't been updated to work with it yet.
Okay, so let's keep it in mind for the next one, and
Yeah.
just stick. I will just just
So yeah,
go
just
and
yeah,
comment this one. Okay.
yeah, and then go back to using just a regular button.
Yeah. So
And then what we can do is we can add a script tag to the page
yeah.
or to the component. I mean,
So right. Yeah. I guess maybe something here.
yeah, just use a regular script.
Okay.
Um, and then if you add like a class name to your button or something, so that you can
Yeah.
do a
Easily
query
target it.
selector.
Yeah. Let's set temp switch. Okay. So let's do document query selector. Yep. Oh my. Okay. And an event listener on click. So if I do that, it's a long line. So I do my document body. I should have copied it before that, but yeah. Class list toggle and toggle dark. Okay, so if I click on it, okay, maybe
Oh
it's
no.
maybe it's maybe it's on my side. Okay, so what did I do with it? So either I've got my script, which is here.
Oh wait, you
Yeah,
didn't. You
because
need to put dot. Yeah,
yeah,
dot
I forget the
underscore. There we
dot.
go.
Okay. Is it working or not? No. Why? Um
All right, you got a script, right? Theme switch.
Oh my.
That looks
Oh,
correct.
that's sad. What did I put? Button, tem switch. That's good. I guess so. Query, selector. Oh, I have
Hmm.
something in my console. Oh.
Oh, it cannot
Reading,
read.
event lister. Okay,
Oh, you
so
know what? It's because you put the script tag before. So what you can
before,
do is, yeah, there's a couple approaches here. Astro will bundle scripts, but you have to add a type equals module. If you add type equals module, and then also add an attribute called hoist, hoist. That basically just tells Astro to treat this as something that needs to be bundled. Um,
yeah,
and
that would be
then
nice. And then, oh, God,
still didn't do it. Is
still
it still
not.
the same problem?
Yeah, maybe it could. No, because I've got it.
Oh,
The
the
class is
element.
properly switching. So this is
Oh,
definitely
it is
because,
switching. Okay.
yeah, it's switching. But I don't have access to my custom properties. So why?
Uh,
Because they are not named colors. I'm just silly. Okay, and this way, bingo!
there we go.
We've got
See,
we've got it.
this is what happens when you live code. It takes a little bit.
This is so cool. This is so cool. Really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah, I
fun.
like it.
So,
Yeah, so normally in Astro you would use a framework component or something to build something more complex. But
mhm,
what is cool about the Astro syntax is that it is so close to just HTML that if you just have a very small thing like what you're doing here, just write the JavaScript right there.
yeah, this is just plain old JavaScript like we love, and just because sometimes you don't have to embed a lot of different kind of frameworks, libraries, external stuff, and so on. Just want to add some action, some click, and that's all. So yeah, that's really really nice. Okay, that was really cool. So as a recap, we had our different tokens in the JSON format. We import them in our style blocks using the define vars attribute. And we were able to add some kind of small, simple logic with plain JavaScript to get our theme switch, which will be really cool because I'm definitely using some kind of um, types declaration coming from the Open Props project from Adam Argyle. And it's really cool the way to define different theme tokens and having them being able to switch between different themes. So I will
Yeah,
implement them in this starter kit. This is Astro starter kit. And another good
yeah,
thing is that we finally use doc section to render our different components. So we will be able to just build the documentation using Astro files. So it's a live
yeah,
documentation containing your components, your living components with your living tokens. So that's
right.
really cool. I'm really looking forward for the XElement stuff because it sounds
Yeah,
really really nice to use it. So
yeah, it's
really
really
cool.
cool. It really pushes the limits of what you can do in Astro, and
Mm,
uh, that's probably why it's not working at the moment. Is we made a breaking release, and so we probably broke Excel a bit, but it's a
yeah,
really cool tool. I recommend people check it out.
yeah, it happens. It's always the same thing.
Yeah.
So I guess we're arriving to the end of the stream. So anything you want to add? Something like new features coming next in Astro for the next release or something like that? If you can
Yeah, so
disclose them.
we're gearing up for two things. I've been working on SSR support, so we're kind of still in the planning stages, I would say. But I started doing some prototyping. It's available behind a flag in a very low level way. So that's one thing that we're working on, hoping to have something to announce next few weeks. And the other thing is Astro 1.0. So we started about a year ago, but we're at the point where we really want to try to stabilize and get people who are kind of holding off, not wanting to use a product that's before 1.0. So we're kind of ironing out kind of the last, little things that we've always wanted to change about Astro before we get 1.0. So yeah, and we hope to have a beta out for that again, and that will be in the next few weeks as well. So yeah, hoping that we get 1.0 out and bring a lot more people on board, and then just continue this trajectory.
That sounds awesome. This is really, really cool.
Yeah, this is great.
Thank you so much for being here today. It was really cool to have you for this session. It was really, really fun also to just craft new components with Astro and
Yeah.
just to see and trying to push a little bit the limits. So I'm
Hmm.
really happy for from this episode and for what we covered together. So thank you very much for being with us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun.
Cool. That's awesome. I'm really happy for that. See you next week for the next episode. We will have Ben Myers and we will talk about accessibility in design system. So it will be really fun also because there's a lot to cover, I guess. So thanks again, Matthew, and see you next on the Astro Discord and so on.
Will do. See everybody.
Hey,
Great.
that was fun. Bye bye. Bye bye, everyone, and see you next time.